Hello, I'm horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. I draw monsters and write twisted tales. As you can imagine, I was a little obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Lucky for me, so were most of my high school friends, all except one. One friend who stubbornly refused to join the Scoobies. So here we are, 20-some-odd years later. I'm teaming up with Doc Travis, John Teach Landis, and maybe a special guest or two. And we're going to make our friend, Michael Poley, watch one episode of Buffy a week until he's no longer the Buffy Virgin. Hey everybody, welcome to Season 4, Episode 5, Beer Bad. I'm your host, Dennis St. John. You can buy my comic, Land of Many Monsters, and many more monster tales and other stuff on Amazon. So let's get started, but first I want to introduce people. This is our very first episode this season where the entire cast is here. So first, let's introduce our regular cast, starting with Mike.
Hi, I'm a virgin. I've only seen Buffy up to Beer Bad, so Season 4, Episode 5. Episode 5.
Why don't we go next to Lando?
Hey, everybody. This is Lando.
And Trav.
And I'm Travis. I'm the person with really bizarre, very opinionated ideas, apparently, about what I feel like this show should be about, huh?
And then, yes, thank you, Travis. Thank you for being here. And then we have with us today a special guest, Jason Cooper. He's a writer for Peanuts, among other things.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here with all you fine gentlemen.
Thanks for coming, Jason. This is your very first podcast, is it
My
not?
very first podcast, and I've been telling Dennis for a very long time, like, why do you have a podcast? I've never been on it. And he's like, it's about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Then I was like, well, I've never seen that, so that's probably why.
So we hit that in.
Or he just hated me. But
We'll find out in the middle of this podcast.
That's
Confrontation!
So, Jason, why don't you talk a little bit about your Buffy experience?
well, I had spoken off mic before. I am familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Christy Swanson is a dreamboat. I knew of the TV show and I'd watched a few episodes, but I've never really watched the series or anything. I called myself not a Buffy virgin, but kind of a Buffy kissed a girl a couple of times, and that's it.
Don't encourage John. Just, you leave Archive of Our Own out of it. It will come up naturally.
And for this episode, Jason has concocted a specialty cocktail called the Caveman.
Yes.
Ooh.
I contemplated Black Frost, but I wanted to leave that for the beer. And I also thought bringing bad beer was a little too on the nose.
A little too on it. And also, why make us suffer?
Yes.
May I ask what's in a caveman?
Yeah.
Well, so I started thinking about cocktail ingredients and cavemen. And so I thought about fire. And I thought whiskey and bourbon are sort of what you drink around a campfire. And like fruits and berries. So I kind of concocted a little berry mixture with some almond extract in it. And then clubs, because I always assumed that cavemen carry clubs. So I put some club soda in there. And garnish. Yeah. And I put some rosemary in it because it looks like a stick and it smells good.
It's a little sprig.
It's a sprig, what the fancy
It
people
smells
say.
great.
They could have gathered it. It makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. It was the first spice a cave person used to spice up.
You might actually be more of a bartender than Xander.
I think I probably...
He's definitely more of a
you just get a job as a bartender with not having any experience at all. And
Jason is actually an expert mixologist. He came to my apartment with his own traveling bar set.
Whoa.
only because a good friend of mine found it at an estate sale, and he sent me a picture of, he's like, do you want a traveling bar set? And I was like, of course I want a traveling bar set.
A dead man's traveling bar set.
He died of alcoholism and travel. I said, I'll take it.
So why don't we actually start the episode? We're going to go straight into reactions. And let me tell you, we had a dramatic week on the internet.
Audience reactions.
First of all, as always, Travis gained some drama. But this time it was me. Travis wasn't even on. It was me kind of trying to explain Travis caused some drama. And Mike caused some drama from being at WhedonCon also. But why don't we start with what Silver Spike said. Trav, why don't you read this?
If Silver Spike 1 said, if Travis isn't into forgiveness, I don't know how he can bear to watch this show because, in my opinion, it's all about forgiveness and redemption. Maybe a tad less than in ATS. I'm not sure what ATS is. Maybe it's
Angel the series.
Angel the series. Okay. But Buffy is a pretty forgiving character when you get down to it. As to using Buffy as a way of airing your own issues, that's fine. But sometimes may I suggest that can confuse and maybe mislead some as to what to expect when viewing your channel, as most other analysis don't go down that route. As for Xander, come on, guy. Oh, okay. I feel like we can come up with a new disclaimer that says, I'm not sure. We can air a new disclaimer at the beginning of these episodes.
That's smart. That
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I will defend. I think we talk about Buffy a lot.
We
Like,
talk about it all the time. First off, number one, no one, I mean, I am up there with people who know the text of Buffy and Angel, okay? I'm not the best person who knows the text, but boy, I know the text, the subtext, and I check out the microfiche from the library if I could. It's not that I'm not about forgiveness. Okay, I'll rant on. It's not that I'm not about forgiveness. It's just that basically my country where I live is suffering because of this patriarchy for the past 200 or 300 years. And if it keeps manifesting in all these different television episodes that teaches young men that this is okay, this is fine, you can do this, then my life will be worse because of it. And I think this country would be worse because of it. So I don't, it's not that I wouldn't forgive Giles, but it's this incredible abuse of young women that, I'm just tired of. It's 2018 and it just sickens me.
So Silver Spike has a couple other notes there. He says, as to Xander, come on, guys, it's a 20-year-old show. And then as for the final Spike Buffy fight, and this is regarding season 4, episode 3. If you can forgive the stunt people, I think it's one of Buffy's best. Short, sharp, but effective. Spike is shown to be really vicious here. You always did like to kick a dolly when it's down. And that sudden kick to her chest gets me every time.
Silver Spike is totally right. We really should give Xander a break. It's not like they had feminism in the 90s, so we should just talking about
equality, equal pay. None of that's been really new.
all right, guys. So I'm just going to read from on Twitter. Ren and Oz was super pumped that Harmony came back as a vampire, and she said she loves post high school Harm, who is possibly my favorite cameo ever in a future episode. And she also says, also, if Michael is listening, I heard about his Buffy the character disdain at WhedonCon, and he's manifestly wrong. I will legit throw down in a verbal stouch over why Buffy is in fact the greatest character in the show, and I will bring receipts. You guys had some discussion on Twitter.
What did you say, Mike?
Oh, yeah, she's starting to get interesting, but she's not over Angel, not even sure what college is. I'm more interested in Anya, Xander, Harmony, Spike, Willow, Oz, Solo Giles, Solo Joyce. So basically everyone else in the cast over the Buffy situation. But she says, then Renee says, not being over your first love affair after 4 months is accurate AF. And then I said, well, we still talk about things that happened 20 years ago. So we're all struggling. That was a fun conversation to have on Twitter.
I still feel like Ren and I should be on the show sometime. She comments so well.
Why don't we move on to the summary?
The summary.
Imagine an episode of Buffy written to get funds from the Office of National Drug Control Policy to teach the dangers of boozing, only to have those funds rejected because the anti-drug message was lost to, quote, otherworldly nonsense, very abstract, and not like real-life kids taking drugs. You don't have to imagine it. We're talking about it. That episode right now. Buffy and some snobby college guys drink a warlock's foamy brew and devolve into cave people. As my grandpa used to say, you can tell the man who boozes by the company he chooses. And with that, the pig got up and walked away. And so we would have walked away from this episode. But we can't. Well, a long time ago, way back in history, when all they had to drink was nothing but cups of tea, along came a man by the name of Charlie Mops, and he invented a wonderful drink and he made it out of hops. Beer, 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 tiddly beer, beer, beer.
I'm already
Caveman's
ready for another
beer,
down
beer,
here.
beer, beer. All right. To make a long story a little bit longer, cavemen on college campus have some hilarious hijinks, in general acting like normal college guys on campus. But then they start a fire and endanger some lives, so Neander Buffy swings in, saves the day, clobbers Parker, and we call it a night, because at 11 o'clock we'll stop, and for 5 short seconds we'll remember Charlie Mops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beer, 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 tiddly beer, beer, beer. Caveman drinking beer, beer, beer. All right.
Can I get you to record that for my voicemail?
I know. Maybe your ringtone.
This episode is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. I love it. I'm relentlessly enthusiastic about Buffy.
I don't feel like I learned much about what happens in the episode, but I did learn that it's about beer.
Dude, beer bad. Beer bad is the
I
summer.
learned that beer was foamy.
Beer foamy.
Yeah.
Great lines.
All right, I have the first couple here. I really like Caveman Buffy being like, TV is a good thing. Bright colors, music, tiny little people. I also like the explanation for the magic this episode is just, my brother-in-law is a warlock. He showed me how to do it. We're done. That's it.
In Sunnydale, that's enough.
Is that a common thing just in Sunnydale that you can... I watched that and I was like, is that just an explanation people will accept? And he was like, wait a second. There's a lot to unpack here.
This is season 4 of a show.
All right.
With monsters every week.
I really enjoyed when Xander suddenly changes voices into another human and says, "Nothing can defeat the penis." Too loud. Very unseemly.
That did sound like an entirely different voice.
It really does. It's clearly dubbed in, I think, but I don't know if it's even him. It sounds like it's some other human being. Anyway, I also enjoyed at the end when Xander gets to say, "This will give them some time to consider the geopolitical ramifications of being mean to me." That was great. Very satisfying.
Yeah, so I don't know who says this, but in the bar, when the jerks are all drinking, just someone yells, "Black Frost is the only beer." It's not even someone at the table.
Oh, yeah, I really liked, I don't know why, when right before the caveman transformation, where the lead guy, Shirt Boy, ran into the room and was like, ran into the bathroom, and there was a bang, and he's like, somebody didn't have their fiber today, was Xander's. I don't know why that was so funny to me, but like you hear a bang and you actually like gravitate to a fart joke or something like that. It's like,
that man just shit an actual
I know.
brick.
I would be like, I think someone just died.
I love when Willow said to Buffy, but Buffy wasn't there. I think she goes, "Buffy, do you know Veruca? Dresses like Faith, voice like an albatross." Like, Willow's just talking smack about this chick because she knows that Oz is into her. I love Willow and she's mean like that. And then at the end of the episode, Giles says to Xander, "Whose van is that?" And is the van that all the cavemen are in? And he goes, "I don't know. Not mine."
Probably the Warlock Brothers van.
Oh, man.
And why don't we do kill count now also?
The kill count.
So 6 fantasy vampires die. There's 6 KOs, and 3 are Parker getting knocked out. 1 exterior of a car is destroyed, 1 coffee shop, and 1 car interior, I assume, from the cavemen.
Parker and Giles should like get together for the concussion support group.
Yeah.
It's funny, Giles gets like hit in the head this episode, but doesn't get knocked out. But he's like one of the only ones who doesn't. Let's move on to weird noticings and trivia.
Weird noticings.
In the opening fantasy sequence where Buffy's slaying vampires, you can really tell that the Matrix just came out.
Yeah, all the black pulsing music.
Yeah.
You know what song they're ripping off? Because it sounds like a song, like they tried to do a sound alike to another song.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know either, but it just has a sound like another song, like it's trying to replicate another hit. But yeah, that cold open is one hell of a daydream because she's just in class. It's not like she like woke up from a deep sleep. It's just like looking at Parker is all it takes.
Gotta go in full fantasy mode, not just like a little abstract dreaming. Like,
I was so happy that was a fantasy sequence, by the way, because not watching this show, it was like, this is bad. And then I like, it's a fantasy sequence. All right, then. I'll allow it.
you're like, is this how it always is on the show?
I said a lot of
I guess I said the Buffy subtext went to college and became a lecture by Professor Walsh. It was just like, oh, man, Jason, there's an earlier episode in Buffy, Jason, where there's this whole subtext that becomes text, and I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense what I just said. It was pretty like in your face, trying to explain what's going on, which is
Nothing in this episode was in your face, so that's good.
A very subtle episode.
Yeah,
Just correctly state,
I
this
love
is the id. You're
I like
the id.
I wrote-
so obvious. It was
I just like food, sex, shelter. That's what we want all the time. That's like that's how I walk around all the time. Sex, shelter, in that order.
just holding everything in.
Yeah.
The moment I walk
Where's
out
the
of my
roof? Why am I not under a roof?
what is this murderous sky above me?
How about that the PowerPoint that she had that was like 1970s stock photos of like a hamburger? That was pretty amazing. And she had it on like the projector and the TV above her head. This is an intense AV situation for 1999.
I like the idea like that back in the 90s, the TAs would have to go like obtain real life pictures. There's no Google search. So it's like, damn it, Riley, you got to go to get a picture of a hamburger. Like that's what he was doing. He was like, developing film the night before for her friggin' presentation.
I don't think Riley took the picture that represents sex either.
I don't know. College is one hell of a time. He would have been great as a stock footage actor. Don't get me started on this. I can go down this rabbit hole a long time.
He definitely could have been the meme guy from guy looking over his shoulder.
Yep.
That meme.
Yeah.
Do you know he played professional basketball?
He's tall.
But not in America. He wasn't good enough for the NBA, so he played for a professional basketball team in Manchester.
Oh,
Isn't that weird?
that is weird. So in Buffy's Scar Watch, the scar is visible in the bar while she's talking to Riley. Speaking of Riley.
Where's Buffy's scar?
She has a scar on her right neck from being bitten by Angel in season 3.
That'll do
And
it.
it occasionally is put on. So that's my new obsession, is when is it visible?
Did she have an official lie she told the doctor for that? Because every once in a while, it's like Joyce was cutting with like a barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue spork.
I can't remember if Buffy had a great lie, but
Well, she was unconscious when they brought her in, so she didn't have to come up with a lie.
so technically Angel was the one who had the lie.
He just looked like he was raged out. People did not ask him those questions.
Is that why he had to go do his own show? Was he better?
He's feeling better now.
Oh, okay.
Or is he? We'll find out.
The road to redemption is rocky.
So I don't know the name of this actor. He probably does have a name, but like the leader of the college kids, because like the other ones are like man 1, man 2 and stuff.
The character
Calpan.
is Calm.
Colm.
Colm, C-O-L-M. Colm, I don't know how you say that. It's
Colm.
an Irish name. Dennis, how do you say it?
Colm.
Colm. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know the actor's name.
So I love how quickly this escalates, this little conversation where Xander just doesn't understand where the line is between bartender and person getting a drink and person who gives drinks, and kind of he oversteps a little bit, but then Colin needs no fuel whatsoever to get into his whole spiel about how he's better than everybody and like how the townies are peanut servers. Love it.
Yeah.
But his go-to, like, you're an idiot to like take someone down is, what are the geopolitical ramifications of bioengineering? Let's have a chat about it. And it's like, man, I hate college students. Clearly they lead with whatever. Yeah. It's like that guy's major is probably like 100% what determined what question thing he used to intimidate someone. It's just such a shitbag thing. Anyway, love it. But what are the geopolitical ramifications of bioengineering?
Well, if we're talking about food, then it means that world hunger is less of an issue than it was 20 years ago, right?
I think it just means there's a lot more corn than there used to be.
I mean, there are a lot of geopolitical ramifications. So you could do a GMO crop, and then another country could develop a specific pesticide or chemical that would kill your GMO crop, right? That would only target your GMO crop, not their own, and release it worldwide. Let's not talk about this.
It's all an
It's totally legit.
Illuminati plan. For
Also, I was going to
months.
say, you notice that when these BS punks, they're always asking some sociology or like economics question. Like no one ever is like asking a physics question in these, I'm just saying there's like a little self-selection when it comes to majors. Like, no, there's never like a physics question where somebody tries to punk someone at a bar about a physics question.
Well, in Good Will Hunting, it's history, right?
Yeah.
John, how would you define this kind of behavior? What would be
I would describe it as getting Goodwill Hunting.
not Goodwill Hunted?
I suppose that's better.
Hunting season.
Had that come out yet?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
2 years earlier. So this was definitely, I think it's clearly intentionally referencing that scene. Except
And yet, it's not in recommendations.
Xander does not get to say that anything about apples. That doesn't get to happen. Well, he does get the last word, though.
It's easy to have the last word on cavemen. They're
Yeah.
fairly lingual.
The show also could have been called Beware the Wasps, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, I feel. That's all.
But I just wanted to point that Cal Penn went to college with Buffy. It was a little odd to see him, right? Harold from Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, and he's commented a lot. And he's done interviews where he talks about how thankful he is that he got gigs like on Buffy and Angel. So he's also on Angel too. And he goes on, so you can Google this if you want to. He says a lot of nice things. I think one of the big things was that he wasn't typecast as a specific role, because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you were Asian or a minority, you got super typecast. And so he was like, yeah, this is really great. I played cool characters that had nothing to do with
They turn into
color of my
cavemen.
skin. Yeah.
When he turns into a caveman later, all I can think is like, this man worked in the Obama White House.
I also thought, wasn't he the only bit of diversity in that entire cast and show for this episode?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a pretty white cast.
I was like,
Yeah.
just watching the credits again, like, wow,
That's pretty typical
No
for
diversity.
Buffy.
Racist Buffy.
What does Trick call it? Strictly of the...
Caucasian persuasion.
Caucasian perspective.
So when Buffy is getting drunk, she's like, Mom always told me beer is evil. And I don't believe that line. That strikes me as such a funny line. Like, Joyce does not strike me as a teetotaler. And I know she enjoyed drinking the schnapps with Pat. So, like, that's bullshit.
Do as I say, not as I drink.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our
Really like
parents.
schnapps.
Let's say hi to our parents.
Sometimes parents got to give advice that maybe they don't follow, but that's okay, parents.
I don't think Joyce even said that. I don't believe that line. I think that was written specifically for this episode to try to get that sweet government money, and was like, it's just a line that really sticks out to me. I was like, either Buffy is lying right now, or this is like another dimension.
So you're joking about this money. Did they get some money from the government for this episode?
No, the story is they applied for it, but were rejected.
So I actually do want to get into this.
Is this true?
So, okay. I'm actually not convinced that it's exactly true.
Might be a myth.
You found this on Wikipedia, right? That's where I found it.
Yeah.
So the Wikipedia article makes this claim that, and this is a real thing that happened, which is kind of like a minor scandal in a way, because what happened was and I'm going to kind of go a little bit cassette deck on this and go into the details, but basically what happened was the Office of the Drug Czar bought up all this ad time when ad time was super cheap in 1997, right? Economy was kind of in a slump, and so ad time was really cheap. There were like lots more cable channels and stuff, so they bought up all this ad time when it was cheap to do drug PSAs. And then because of the dot-com boom, and there were a lot more companies advertising when this came out around 99, ad prices went way, way up. And they had already sold all of this cheap ad time to the government. And the television networks were kind of pissed off because they'd sold it at this like low bargain bulk rate. And so they made a deal with the government, which was that they could basically double dip and get credit for some of that ad time that they had sold if they basically moved the anti-drug message into the program itself. And so you could like apply to get this credit if you had anti-drug messaging in the show. And like Seventh Heaven definitely did it. There was a couple other shows that definitely did it. I lost my list now, but Buffy apparently applied and lost because like you said, it was too fantastical. It was too abstract. They didn't get it. But the articles that are cited in that Wikipedia page, they don't mention Beer Bad by name. So I don't know if that's mentioned somewhere else. Somebody has like definitely said the script was Beer Bad that got rejected. But I think it's just as likely could be like the possession episode with Giles. Or it also seems likely to me the way it's phrased in the piece is that it's some script that was never produced because it was rejected. It's kind of crazy that there was a time when the government was like actively trying to propagandize through these shows. Something that hasn't happened. It didn't happen before. It hasn't happened since. It's kind of a crazy thing.
It's a shady situation. But I think part of why we think it's this episode is it explains this episode, which is a wonky one.
Yeah.
Why I thought it was the perfect episode to bring Buffy just got into first base guy
Shaking
in.
hands, that's all. I think it's funny that, like, was it every WB show was so desperate for money that, like, we'll do whatever you want, government. Yeah, whatever message you want, we'll put it in there. It's fine. Vampires buy war bonds.
But do you think that it comes across? Do you think it comes across as like an anti-beer episode? I mean, I don't feel like it really.
There's a couple weird lines, like
There are.
Giles is like, I can't believe you served her that. And he's like, what? I didn't know it was magic. It's like, but you knew it was beer.
Totally.
I had a question. How old are they at this point? Do you guys like?
They're the actors or the characters?
Why were they surprised that Xander needed, like, you're not old enough, but she's like walking into a bar and drinking and it's okay.
They're supposed to be about 18 or 19 at this point.
That
fresh.
is too young to legally drink in a bar, right?
But not a college bar where they don't ID.
Where your friend is a bartender. Yeah, I don't feel like they like push hard enough on the alcohol as a problem to like for it, like, because it's clearly a supernatural alcohol. Well, we'll get into it. You know, even like the weirdness that might have happened under the influence of alcohol doesn't really happen. I don't want to
Talk about
say
the group sex.
This whole episode is like, why did
People
Buffy?
did turn into like Neanderthals, right? And that happened.
Buffy needs to never drink
happened to
with
me
frat
once.
guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, Buffy, did you learn nothing? Don't ever drink with frat people.
I was so scared for her this whole episode.
That's true. She did have one drink with a frat guy one time and almost got sacrificed to a snake. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's this episode's all kinds of red flags that's like you don't pay attention to because you're. I know.
The shows that definitely took this money are Beverly Hills 90210,
WB.
Chicago Hope,
No,
ER, Seventh Heaven, of course, and The Drew Carey Show. So apparently there's an anti-drug episode of Drew Carey.
Drew Carey's character on that show owned a brewery.
he did?
I mean,
It was him and his friends were microbrewers.
Oh, that's right.
I bet
Why
it's an
did I know that?
anti-drug episode. Which character on the
Yeah.
show did they decide to turn into a drug addict for money?
I don't have any of those details, but
I think like 4 out of 5 of those were produced by Warner Brothers.
Jason also used to work for Warner Brothers, so he's
Yeah,
got the
they-
inside scoop on that kind of thing.
Yeah, they shot ER there, and Buffy was produced by them. And
Promised Land, Cosby, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Boy Meets World, General Hospital.
Now,
Just
did these
spread the money.
manifest in? I would love to know the forum it took place. You know, like was it? Oh, they got busted for possession. Was it like an overdose? Did they just, their parents discovered them drinking? Was it a car crash? DUI situation. I mean, there's just so many drug-induced fatalities or concerns you could bring up. So
Are you trying
they're
to
all
get us
fun.
sponsored? Are you
Which
trying to
are
get
great
this
for
up?
television.
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Get some
Let's-
government money for this podcast.
Well, some of those shows seems like it's easier to slip that message in, like the hospital drama shows where something bad happens, or like Cosby Show,
Yeah.
God rest its soul.
It's
you
my
know, like,
default
don't do drugs,
assumption.
kids.
It's my default assumption that they're trying to target young people for these messages. But like, what young people in the 90s were watching General Hospital?
Yeah,
The kids who were sick.
yeah,
Yeah, come on. What about?
Doing too much drugs.
yeah.
I mean, it's pre-Scrubs medical drama. I don't know where do you get the medical fix from?
Can we just refer to every medical drama as being pre-Scrubs or post-Scrubs?
And Sarah Michelle Gellar started her career on All My Children.
I actually have an All My
Been
Children
reels.
story I've never revealed on this podcast. My office mate, Justin, worked for 3 days on All My Children for a hurricane episode.
Oh yeah.
And he got, he was a stuntman and he got thrown across the room. So he worked with Sarah Michelle Gellar for like 3 days. And his comments, which is part of why I've never brought this up, his comments about it are, she was underage. Still hot though.
Yeah, she played, was it Bianca? She was the first Bianca. And then there were different actresses who replaced her. But also, All My Children was always getting hit by weird weather storms. So hurricane does not surprise me.
All right, John, what do you
This is stupid. This is stupid. But I know the point of Colm is to be an idiot and a blowhard, but his whole rant, he goes on about how if ancient civilizations had alcohol, that there wouldn't, humanity's history wouldn't be so violent, is really stupid because beer is basically humanity's first invention. If you like any beer book you pull off the shelf will have an introduction about how the grand history of beer and how the ancient Sumerians brewed beer or whatever. And
Yeah, that line always bothers me also because I'm like, I know it's dumb, but it always distracts me. And
yeah, I mean, it's kind of the point is that he's an idiot, but
everybody knows beer was invented by Charlie Mops.
Oh, I was just laughing that This is what Jason was wondering. Is it normal for someone just to say, "Oh yeah, my brother's a warlock," or "Brother-in-law is a warlock"? It's just kind of the craziest thing. Even for Buffy, it's just like pretty crazy. It's almost as crazy as just like going to the slaughterhouse to buy blood, and someone be like, "Oh, you want some brains?" "Oh yeah, I had a guy deliver brains to all the time." It's super wacky.
Also, was that guy's name Jack? Was that the bartender guy's name?
Yes.
The guy that owned the bar?
Yeah, I think.
Where was he when Xander was so busy and everyone was yelling at him? And he was like 1,800 people needed drinks, but he'd like
just during that one goddamn minute.
like your first night, you're gonna leave him alone, and then I'm just gonna put him out of the back.
I've had bosses like that.
And then I said Willow's mind is always in the gutter since she got to college. With Buffy and the group sex, like she immediately is kind of always like jumping to like something sexual now.
She has been, she has been more sexual this season.
Like way more. And the whole like, ooh, ouch. Like it was just like, it was a lot. Like Willow's reaction to Buffy's like monosyllabic language as a cave girl.
I love Sarah Michelle Gellar's acting in that early stages of being a cave girl.
Yeah.
I think that stuff's really funny.
Buffy stealing a sandwich from someone in class is the most fucked up, unforgivable transgression in this episode. I was shocked when I saw that. And they set it up because you see the woman eating a sandwich. And by the way, you never see someone eating food in a show because it's gross.
Yeah.
Because they have to take like multiple takes.
Yeah, or during in a class. Like if you were a professor, you're like, "Do you want to listen to this? Put your sandwich down, please."
Right.
This is a morning class, obviously.
And it looks like a full Jughead, whatever you call it. It's a big sandwich, right?
I think it would be a Dagwood more.
A Dagwood, sorry.
Jughead is into the hamburgers. Dagwood.
I'm sorry.
Mike's into the full Jughead.
Yes.
It's a full Dagwood. Excuse
Blondie
me.
is the brownie.
I'm on the right podcast. So like it's just this full Dagwood or whatever. But she just like grabs it, starts snacking, and no remorse. And I was shocked. I didn't realize being a caveman meant no remorse. I get she's hungry and hungover and stuff. It doesn't know how to take care of herself. But anyway, it's a lovely scene. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's so weird. And it's also like, it's the social construct of like, what do you do in this situation? Like, the one who gets her sandwich stolen isn't even yelling. She's like, what the fuck?
No, you can't do anything because you already kind of broke a rule anyway to get it there.
You definitely can't like interrupt Maggie Walsh's class again in the like.
No, it's like stealing drugs from the dealer. You can't. Police aren't going to come get you.
It's a victimless crime that has no consequences.
The band Shy, this is apparently not the only time we hear them, but they are actually, all the music is performed by a band called THC, and that band no longer exists. They produced one album, 3 or 4 of their songs were used on Buffy, and that was the end of them.
Veruca definitely has a very 90s look, right?
I wrote in my notes, nice pants.
But she is not the actual singer. That would be someone else.
Somebody else has the voice of the albatross.
Yes.
When the caveman, after the transformation and everything, when the caveman attack, Willow has like 1 second that she could have used to either run away or like magic up or something. But instead, she's just like, I got to get one last dig on Parker here. She's like, see, this is you. Right?
I got to say, that Parker scene where she confronts Parker and then he kind of like flips the script and it's going to like maybe come on to Willow is a super ambiguous and strange scene that first time watching this thing, I was like, I think Willow is going to like flip it on him, but I can't tell where this show wants, like from this episode. I don't know what this show wants to teach me about relationships at this I feel totally Parkered. I have no idea.
Jason, coming in this not knowing the Willow-Oz relationship very well, what did you think was going on in that scene?
Who is Oz?
Oz is Seth Green.
Oh, well, I knew what was about to happen. I knew what Parker was doing, and I kept thinking that I hope this doesn't happen. And I was like, how terrible are just men in general that this has been written and people are watching it and assume that this is a possibility. And I just felt bad. And I was like, I hope this doesn't happen. And then also I always associate Alison Hannigan with How I Met Your Mother, because that's how, when I see this looking back, I'm like, she's a better actor in How I Met Your Mother than in Buffy.
How dare you, sir?
And then I was like, oh, I see what
Dennis, turn off the camera.
No, I was like, oh, I see what she's doing there. She was playing up the She was pretending to be dumb right there. So that's what I was.
We know. I was just kidding.
Just click. I'm concerned with their relationship though after seeing the nice pants albatross though. I hope those.
It does look like the relationship is in trouble for sure. That the Willow Oz thing.
Did it look like Veruca was just staring at Oz singing?
Yeah.
Because Willow was like, do you know this person? Because it looked like that person was just singing and staring at Oz.
Yeah.
Right? Am I crazy?
I also like that. I don't think Oz is lying to Willow at this point. Like, I think Oz genuinely doesn't know what's going on with his own feelings. He's like, I don't know. Like, he seems as puzzled by it. Like, he's such a disconnected dude. I feel like he's just so like disconnected from his own feelings.
A dog 28 days out of the month, and for the last 3, he'll be a werewolf. That's all I'm saying.
Heyo.
Watching the show, it did feel like they were introducing another drug. Like, oh, there's the Black Frost, and maybe there's also music drug from that only infects Oz for some reason.
Veruca is the only music.
One thing the thing that I think bothers me the most about this episode, and this isn't just Buffy specific, it's a lot of caveman movies, and I love caveman movies, is the show fucking chickened out in not giving Buffy a Neanderthal brow like it does the rest of them. I mean, this is something I'm going to complain about in recommendations also. Dude, give the lady a caveman brow. Come on, you can still make it sexy.
Cave person.
Don't be like afraid. Don't be afraid to like unsexy the lady by browing her up.
They did the same thing on Deep Space Nine when they decided to have a lady Trill and they changed the makeup.
They sexied up the makeup.
Yeah.
Dax.
I thought she was gonna have it because they did that slow reveal. Remember when she was painting on the wall and then like she slowly turned like, oh, here it comes, and it was nothing.
But it was nothing. They chickened out. It was just full on chickening out.
Her hair was still looked better than mine.
Didn't they give her kind of like dreaded out, kind of weird hair?
Yeah, and that's the extent of it.
And I think they did do some makeup on the brow. They like browned it up a little, but like it's not full.
Well, she's got to be redeemable in some way. You got to be able to identify the bad guys.
There's the moment where they got Buffy in the dorm room and she's starting to go caveman, and she's like, Buffy want beer, and they're like, Buffy can't have beer. Beer's the problem. They should have just given her some beer, like not magic beer, but like give her some regular beer. That will make her more docile and, happy until it wears off. Because they know at that point they know it's going to wear off in 24 hours. Just get her drunk. Problem solved.
I think they weirdly underestimate Buffy when she's a cave person, which is straight up dumb.
Know better than that by now.
Yeah.
Like Xander got beat up by her like just a couple episodes ago.
I really like her spinning in the chair. I bet that's a gif. That's a funny gif.
So did they all went to high school together and then went to college together?
Yeah. Well, nice. Giles was their librarian in high school.
What is he now?
Now he's just a man of leisure. We haven't really had the full discussion about like what Giles's finances are, because they are kind of a mystery.
Oh, did he like hit the payoff from the Watcher Council for like getting the Slayer to a certain age, and then like you just get
like a bonus
regular annuity, or
well, he got fired on her 18th birthday, right? So he probably didn't hit that. Like,
no pension.
Right before they were going to have to give him a pension. That's cold-blooded.
Maybe there's a Rumpelstiltskin light story. He's got some straw into gold business going on. I guess we'll find out about.
He could be an alchemist. I don't know.
Could be a gigolo.
For British tourists. Oh, just they're like trying to figure out how to deal with all these cave people. I feel like they just should have shown them an outdoor movie or something. Like Buffy's so clearly distracted by TV. Fire is a concern. Outdoor movie. I don't know. It just felt like they weren't thinking very hard about how to deal with the problem. And so you're just watching this just like fires and just things like falling apart. It felt like needlessly apocalyptic, but it's fine. It's fine.
I also feel like fire bad is like a Frankenstein quote, not a caveman quote, right? A little sloppy. That's all I'm saying.
Just like
fire bad, tree pretty.
It's just like when the show lets you think of an answer, like it kind of prompts thing, and then they don't really, I don't know. It felt like it was showing ways to deal with the cave people and then not like using them, whatever. Like the TV was distracting her, Anyway, it was fun.
Yeah, there's also like that one caveman gets hit by a car and then his
Is he dead,
compatriots.
by the way? Is that person?
Probably.
Like,
Did you say
Like
dead?
his compatriots just abandon him,
He was just
and
like,
they don't
I'm
he's
like-
not in the van. Like there's still like a
2 days from now, he's still going to be in the road with like a broken collapsed
in front of a
lung.
clubbed
Like,
I
car.
feel like there should be more cave people. Like the beer is like they only have like 2 taps in this bar. I mean, it was unclear why they weren't serving
Yeah,
everyone
and, like,
Frost.
Did he like pick and choose? Like, you're the biggest jerk, so you get the poisoned black frost, and then you can have regular black frost.
I think it's all poisoned, right? But those were the biggest drinkers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, there's
I wrote down, does Jack hate them or himself?
Okay. Two dumb noticings about Black Frost. One, it sounds like the name of an anime, which is awesome.
Totally.
And the second, it's a light beer. It's like not a dark beer, right? Should it be a dark beer?
I think this is. I don't want to step on somebody's pun here.
Oh, sure, sure.
Was this the beginning of the craft beer trend? Sorry.
I think it's an American lager, is what I'm assuming, because I feel like it was before. Even though Jack is like says something about fruity microbrews,
Yeah.
it's definitely before the microbrew explosion. So it would have probably been like some just American craft beer, right? Or American lager, right?
No, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that there'd be like an old man like American light lager called Black Frost. Like that is a
sounds like a
totally
dark beer.
a believable name for like an obnoxious craft beer.
I really like that lab setup too that you saw. I was like, it's a glimpse into the Anheuser-Busch machine.
Yeah, but it just drips beer on top, or drips a chemical on top of a keg, like maybe an open keg. Like that.
Right. That doesn't make any
That
sense.
doesn't make any sense.
Beer, yeah, kegs are
It needs to be
pressurized.
such a closed system. Like you can't over ferment or expose the beer like that.
That's the warlock magic.
I'm sure somebody doing the like setup for this episode was like, "This doesn't make any fucking sense. These fucking writers don't know anything." But
Why does the caveman leader just get to keep his shirt on and no one else does? Is it so we can identify him, or it's like Colm is so important? Make sure he keeps the blue button up on. That's all my question. It's like me in the pool. Always keep your shirt on.
how do people rate the caveman acting in this episode? Because
No Ron Perlman, but it's pretty good.
it's definitely no Ron Perlman. I think they do a good job. The makeup isn't great. Like the main leader, they like darken part of his face, but not around the mouth, and it makes a weird distraction. But I think Sarah Michelle Gellar actually does a great job as a cave person.
I could tell that they were trying to be cave people, so I wasn't confused about what was going on. I was mostly confused about what was going on in the writing room, but the acting was fine. I liked the early assumption in the episode that bartenders mostly give amazing advice to people, and that's like what the role is. Of course, they do that classic Whedon cut where they cut from, oh, I'll be good at giving advice or whatever, to like, I'm overwhelmed by the number of patrons that want drinks and can't solve this problem. The show has one idea of what bartenders do. What do you think bartenders actually do? I was just curious.
I had a bartender last night say to me, I wish there was a purge for customer service, for people who work customer service. And I was like, I kind of agree with you, but I'm kind of freaked out you said that to me. I don't know what I've done.
So they incite revolution. Okay, that's one thing bartenders
Like
do.
one day where they get to slaughter the patrons is what I assume.
Which bar was that? Is that a local place? Just your favorite local hang?
Oh, it's this local pub called the Whole Foods Tap Room.
If you're going to cull a population anywhere, it should probably be there.
Probably be at a Whole Foods. Yep.
I like it because it's across the street from my apartment. What do other people think bartenders do? This is an odd question.
No. It's like, what do you think a job
It's
is
not a
about?
mysterious job. I feel like it's not like they're not like hedge fund managers where you like have to guess. These are bartenders. They work in the open.
It feels like the kind of old-timey bartender that would give you advice is somebody that works in like a dive bar or something like that, or like a grizzled old. It's not a place you'd go in college where you go for advice.
It's like the more time a bartender has to devote to making like fancy or complicated cocktails, that decreases the amount of time they can give you advice.
Right.
So like a dive bar probably has just like whiskey and beer and a pool table. And it's not like they're going to be, 10 ingredients in a bottle or something.
I don't know. I think I definitely used to hang out in dive bars that still did the cocktail stuff, but it was not their specialty.
Mm-hmm.
But they would, I would go to this bar that the bartender would like try to invent cocktails. They were never quite as successful, honestly, as the caveman.
Okay, man.
That's very kind.
Did you guys ever have a college bar?
I didn't start going to bars until later.
Definitely went to bars in college for sure. There was a whole street of bars in Ohio University. So definitely went to bars, but it was mostly other people who were students. So it didn't feel like I was getting sage advice. It felt like it was just another college student who was a little less drunk than you, giving advice or making suggestions about what to drink next. I just don't have the sense that, I guess Xander has going in, that bartenders are these sages that give advice. And maybe that's from another era of like whatever era the writers are from. Like in my actual experience.
Xander probably grew up watching Cheers. I was looking for some Sam Malone.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek: The Next Generation. He could be trying to be Guinan. That's pretty sage
Hold
advice.
on, that's my question.
I'm
That's
gonna
the question
quote.
later on.
I'm going to quote Michael Poley's latest video upload and say, John, you've got Star Trek herpes.
I'm patient zero, I think.
Speaking of college, have you guys ever felt like a townie in a college town, like Xander? Because I definitely have.
I mean, I wasn't from when Dennis and I were both living in Bloomington. Dennis had lived there for a while, and I did just pretty much move there for college. But I definitely felt like a townie because I was a little bit older than college age, or I was a little older than everybody else, and the drinking culture there was really gross and really disgusting, and just people kind of like fratty type dudes getting drunk and like pushing mailboxes over and stuff in the street just for no reason. And just I remember that just really made me angry. And but I got my revenge because I worked at the liquor store and I would card like the FBI. I was like fucking high up in there. I had like a black light and a magnifying glass. I was all ready to ask them about their like star sign and shit and make sure that was a real ID. I didn't care if it was real. I just I always made them wait. It was really fun. I got my revenge. It was great.
I definitely remember being out late enough that when the bars let out, it felt like the zombie apocalypse like every night because people would be stumbling and lurching, and a couple times they would actually like lunge at you while you're on your bike, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Wow. What time did they close at 2?
Yeah, probably around 2, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I identified with Jack in this episode. I was like, they totally deserved it.
I also think like Xander calls him a bad man, but I'm like, give Xander a year and he would have done this exact same thing.
Seriously.
So in college, I worked at Wendy's for a year, and that was just because it was like one of the few jobs I could get because of whatever in college. And like, I was one of the few students to work at this Wendy's. And so I definitely heard like all my managers, everybody who ran that place was a townie, right? And there was definitely that townies versus students attitude. And I remember being like, just hearing the harebrained schemes of some of these townies to get revenge, like just nondescript revenge on students who also provided them with their income, So it's just like, it's a weird angry thing about like, I didn't go to college. You guys just come here for fun and then you leave and I'm going to get you. And and you
get treated like shit by these people who were there for 4 years, and they cycle out and new people come in. Like, I don't know. I feel it.
Yeah, they treat it like a theme park. It sucks.
So this leads perfectly into John's next question about service industry jobs.
Yeah. Anybody have? I mean, I worked in service for like 10 years, so
yeah,
I've got a lot of stories. But I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah, the closest I've come to, I was never a bartender, but I did work wait staff at a hotel that I also lived in, and we had to serve a lot of Dartmouth students, especially Dartmouth business school students, and they were the fucking worst, man. I mean, they would part of my job was to make sure sex wasn't happening in the cloakroom and stuff, and they would like fight me. I definitely checked IDs that I knew were fake, and I was like, dude, this is very clearly fake. And it was similar to the Xander thing of like, there's a mustache on you. And I've worked cafeteria for college, for the college, and those kids are shitty also, like in the library. Just, I don't know, students are shitty. Right? They say stuff like, why are you like, getting upset about our hours? And they're like, that's gay. You're like, what? I don't know.
When I think of service industry jobs, for me, I think about when I worked at a Starbucks, only because when Xander's dealing with that crazy volume of people, that's like what I felt like at Starbucks. Like, because we didn't necessarily have a good way. Like, I didn't work at a neighborhood Starbucks. I worked at a Starbucks in an outlet mall which is like and it's the closest outlet mall to Disney World. So it was just like tons of insane tourists. And like if you Yelped for coffee, it was the closest coffee place to Disney. This is before they had the deal with Starbucks, and they had Starbucks at Disney. Now they do. So some of these freaks wouldn't be there. But it was just like, it was a really crazy, super fast paced. People said shitty things to you. You just had to like, that's not about me. This is something I don't have to deal with. I make the coffee at the pace I want, because Starbucks has this whole coffee experience, but no one really gives a shit when they just like want a coffee because they have kids or whatever. They're trying to like buy jeans. But it was like a weird mix, because in the morning and afternoon would be this insane rush, and then the afternoon evening would be all Turkish dudes just wanting to hang without their wives and just talk about Turkish politics. And so just like it just went just a total different vibe around 5:00. Anyway, just
weird. Jason, I know you've worked some service industry.
Yeah, I worked at Starbucks too for a lot of years. Then I also waited tables. I was a singing waiter for a while. I had to wear a costume and sing ridiculous songs. That was an experience.
That was a requirement of the job, or that was
a requirement of the job. Just my own flair. I was like, I'm going to be a pirate today. And I wandered in. No, yeah, it was very interesting. It was a lot of retired people. I worked at this place, which is now defunct, called Bobby McGee's, where the retired population of Burbank would come in about 4 p.m. for their prime rib special. And I would just be dressed as a Cub Scout, giving them more horseradish. It was pretty soul crushing. And then
I would, a weird nightmare.
Yeah. Then I would go to work at Starbucks after that. At one point I worked at both places, kind of like a day and night sort of thing. But the claim to fame of the Starbucks that I worked at in Burbank was it was a stand-in for San Diego in Jurassic Park, The Lost World, I think. So if you watch that movie, which I think was the second one, you can see the Starbucks where I worked. I wasn't there at the time, but you can see that.
You weren't there when the T-Rex attacked?
No, luckily I survived.
Why don't you ask the next question then?
So there has to be an episode of Star Trek where Data gets drunk. And I feel like I've seen an episode where that happens, but I can't remember, and was hoping, having some faith that people here might remember. There has to be a Data gets drunk episode. There just has to be.
It's the second episode of the series.
They're naked now.
If you prick us, do we not leak?
I knew it, man. All right.
Not the best episode.
Are you serious? Is that really an episode?
Yeah. Everybody gets drunk. It's
magic. Do we not leak?
Yeah, he says that. Yeah.
Terrible name.
That's not the title.
That's some of his drunk dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Or why they try to explain how a robot can get drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, the explanation makes no sense, but they need Data to be drunk for the action to unfold. They
needed the money from the government, so they had to how much of a university has to burn down before the fire department's called? There was a lot of smoke happening, right? And that took a long time
And it took a long time for smoke inhalation to even be an issue. Like, I think Parker coughs, but for a while, apparently that's not a problem.
Yeah. Switching to Geico really so easy. A caveman could do it. I kept thinking of this whole...
Have to ask Cal Penn.
Yeah. Jack to serve everyone that beer, or just the people he really hates? Does he, like when he was coming out of the back with that crate, he was like, "This is for these chuckle nuts over here."
I don't get the impression he has like a really grand plan with this. He's just like, I think it's just chaos. I think he's just striking out at whoever's in front of him.
He's like,
I wonder if his brother-in-law is Ethan Rayne, maybe.
Oh,
it seems like it's not chaotic enough for him, but it's chaotic enough that he'd like lend some like consulting to.
This does feel like an Ethan Rayne episode. That's a good point.
That would have been a great twist.
Recommendations.
So yeah, the in-app recommendation is Cocktail, which I've never seen. But I'm so this isn't my favorite episode, obviously, but I love caveman movies. Like, I am super big fan of caveman movies, so I was pumped. So I'm going to recommend both versions of 1 Million Years BC. The latter version is more famous, with Raquel Welch and Ray Harryhausen doing effects. The original version stars John's great aunt, Carol Landis. I'm also going to recommend, also from Hammer, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, another good fur bikini movie. Iga is a teen caveman movie. It's a good MST3K episode, and Iga, the caveman who gets unfrozen from time, is played by Jaws from the James Bond movies. Caveman with Ringo Starr and Dennis Quaid. And there's actually going to be 2 Dennis Quaid recommendations in this list, which is exciting. If you're a big Dennis Quaid fan like me. The best caveman movie overall is definitely Quest for Fire. Ron Perlman is perfectly cast as a caveman. They use like real lions and put giant saber tooths on them. And it's got some of the best like visual gags. Like one of the things is like a saber-toothed lion chases them up a tree, and then it like cuts to like Ron Perlman chewing on a leaf, and then like it cuts to the next day and all the leaves are gone from the tree. He's just eating all the leaves. Like Clan of the Cave Bear, I don't recommend, just because one of the things I like from caveman movies is I like that they're kind of exercises in silent storytelling. And Clan of the Cave Bear doesn't do that because they have subtitles and they have like heavy narration. So to me, this just feels like a failure. And I'm going to recommend the best town versus gown movie is Breaking Away, which is set in Bloomington, Indiana, where I went to college and where John hung out and did some college, right?
Yep.
And I used to work at the cafeteria at IU that during like the first week, the freshman orientation week, would play Breaking Away on loop. It was a little much, but I would still like, the movie's good enough that there was still like a point in that movie where if I was like cleaning tables while I was playing or something, there's a point in that movie that would make me choke up every time. So I'd be like, all right, I can't be cleaning the tables during this period, right? During in this 90-minute loop. I believe somebody else is recommending Captain Caveman.
Yeah, man. He's a short, hairy caveman. It's got a big stick.
Travis, I think you got one here.
Encino Man from the 1990s.
Oh, of course.
Pretty solid. That's Brendan Fraser's whole career. Started right there. And Sean Astin's in it. And, of course, Pauly Shore. Everybody, of course, we call us Pauly Shore.
Yeah, after Tarzan, though, I feel like he was kind of typecast.
Pauly Shore.
No, I mean, Pauly Shore obviously had a very diverse career.
Yeah. I think you mean George of the Jungle, right?
Oh, George of the Jungle. That's right. George of the Jungle. Thank you, Dennis. I think we saw that in the theater, you and I.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Why is that not on your recommendation?
He's not a caveman. I mean, this is the theme I think the episode's trying to get at is like, are we all just cavemen underneath? It's caveman are the id. I almost feel like it's not even worth talking about. But
I think that's.
I would agree with that.
I'd like to get your opinion because I haven't watched all these caveman movies, but to me in this episode, the cavemen were kind of like fast zombies because they couldn't really speak, and they were kind of just motivated by these primal urges. And to me, fast zombies only got into existence when 28 Days Later came out. Before, it seemed like zombie movies, they were slow moving. So to me, this was kind of cool, but I'm not sure in those other caveman movies, if the bad cavemen, are they all quick and fast and those other recommendations? Because I haven't seen all those recommendations.
Well, most of them are caveman. It's all
they're the hero, right? Aren't they caveman heroes?
There's good cavemen and bad cavemen.
Yeah. So this is like they're all kind of bad here. So it's like, so I'm just wondering. To me, that's what it kind of felt like. But love to hear what you guys thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you throw a caveman into the 21st century, it's going to have kind of the zombie style, I guess. But I think, you're going to find more sympathy in a caveman than you are a zombie, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's weird because cavemen are what we were and zombies are what we become.
Or where we're going, right?
Where we're going, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the zombie apocalypse inevitable?
Yeah. Did it start in caveman times?
Were there cave zombies?
Oh, there's a movie right there. Zombie caveman in caveman times.
Well, Caveman v Zombie. Caveman v Zombie would be a great horror movie.
It's so challenging to figure out which is a caveman, which is a zombie, right? So like that's half the movie is you don't even know that the zombies have taken over, right? Or like the caveman can't figure it out.
Oh.
Yeah, they definitely are not able to strategize.
It would take a caveman detective to figure it out.
It would take Captain Caveman.
I think we got the script like half written already.
I want to spend some time talking about Parker. I think that Parker's the most interesting part of this episode, and I want to kind of think about Parker and Xander, and like why do we hate Parker so much? But the show wants us to hate Parker so much, but also wants us to give Xander a pass with his behavior. Xander's fine in this episode for the most part, but Xander's behavior up till now. We spent some time a couple episodes ago talking about how Xander is this like reflection of Joss Whedon's way he thinks about himself, and we talked about how Xander's also reflecting some of the things that we've learned about Joss Whedon in the last year and some of the negative things about Joss Whedon. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, maybe Parker reflects that too. I mean, Whedon didn't write this episode, but like, I'm wondering, like, Parker with his like fedora pickup artist nonsense. I don't know, like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say to compare them. Like, I don't think Xander ever did what Parker's doing. Like,
but like, is it just that he's not good at it? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is at the beginning there's horn dog Xander,
right?
But, like what we've kind of found is like he's like, or maybe we haven't found it yet. I don't know. Right. But he's not actively being too predatory, right? Like, he might talk a good game, but that's not. Or he talks.
Well, that's the thing is, he talks a bad game, right? And I guess I'm just.
But I just don't think, even if he got that shit figured out, I don't think that's really who he is my interpretation. Because he does.
Right.
He's more of a relationship guy. Like, he's been only in the one.
Remember when he said he thought about Buffy when she was naked, and she's like, "Don't ever tell me that again, please."
That's true.
Which is like it's like an 8. That's like, not friend ending. Well, it could be. But it's like, definitely that's an HR complaint under any other circumstance. I think Parker and Xander have a lot of similarities, John.
I feel like Parker is to some degree
Xander.
Yeah, Parker is successful Xander, or Parker is something that Xander thinks at one point at least thought he wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. So what would have happened to Parker if there was like a bewitched, bothered, bewildered scenario, which is, Jason, that's the episode where Xander gets a love potion created or some kind of love magic so that every woman falls in love with him. Like, I feel like Parker would have handled that differently than Xander. Xander's initially excited and then terrified. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's where that inevitably goes, but it does feel like Parker would have a little bit more control and be a little bit more knowing about what's happening. Like, I don't feel like Parker would be in the same situation that Xander would be in.
Well, to be fair, Xander was in 11th grade, and Parker would be some sort of college person.
We've only known him as a college person. Is he a freshman? He lives in the dorms. I can't figure it out.
I mean, he looks older than everyone else on the freaking cast.
I guess he's got his like cafeteria expertise and stuff. He must be.
He's definitely not a freshman. He's auditing like freshman courses.
Yeah,
that he gave very well rehearsed speech. So
I get the sense that
had to say it before.
I get the sense that Parker's are his parents? No, I mean, we don't know if his parents were divorced. We just know his dad's dad, right? Allegedly. But I just get the sense that Parker's like, this is a lot of learned stuff in a time where it's probably hard to learn a lot of these skills. I bet his dad's a scumbag and he just learned it from his dad, right? As far as like behaviorally. And Xander doesn't have those male role models in his life to like, teach him how to behave like that. I mean,
he's got Uncle Rory to teach him about the schnapps.
Uncle Rory's like midlife crisis is buy a nice car or whatever, right? Like, that's not like a really good role model for how to actually manipulate women or how to get what you want. I feel like Parker's got he's a stronger, sharper character that's like a good foil to Xander as someone who has kind of their act together. Is he a good person? No, I mean, I don't think he's a good person, but he's like a much smarter version of Xander.
Well, I was just saying Mike was defending Parker in the episode that I wasn't on.
I think I wasn't I?
Somebody was.
I think that was
Parker's a scumbag.
You can't tell our voices apart.
I think
number 3 was defending him, and I'm
I actually think
who that was.
The thing with Willow, where he is clearly lying and manipulating her. does put it into a different, pretty different territory. I do have questions though to like how I wonder how Parker sees himself. Like, how much does he see? Is he like a full-on cynical pickup artist where he's just like, I'm just gonna lie and cheat and do whatever I have to do to get laid? Or do you think he believes his own philosophy that he gives about like, oh, I just assume casual sex is the default, and if we don't say otherwise, then do you think there's any part of him that believes that? Is a question I have.
I think he has antisocial personality disorder. I think he's a psychopath.
There's a diagnosis.
There we go.
Yep. I think he's antisocial personality disorder.
I think he believes it, John. I agree.
I mean, he's obviously lying though, because he's like, you don't tell people we're not going to grow older together. It takes the fire out. That's him saying like,
yeah, I noticed that too. That's like basically saying you have to lie because sex is only fun when you're lying.
Also,
when it's all an illusion.
His assumption that like Buffy had a good time during sex, like I obviously didn't see the sex, but
So male.
do you really think you can like fucking pleasure the Slayer? Come on. Dude, it takes superhuman strength and stamina. That's all I'm saying.
I do wish, and I think I said this kind of before, though. I do wish, though, that the show was giving us a better representation of more positive representation of casual sex, especially like to give us representation of a woman who's interested in sex but not necessarily in a relationship, and have that like because we have Faith as that, but she's evil. Like that's considered to be a part of what's broken about her. I feel like we're invited to see that as part of what's broken about her.
No. Well, Buffy doesn't really want casual sex. I think that's the difference.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Faith wanted casual sex, and it was pretty normal for her. I mean, she eventually was evil later, but I never thought that her sex life was evil.
I feel like Faith, even though she's presented as a bad guy, she's a likable character.
That's very
true. That reads different.
That's very true.
And you could say early seasons Cordelia was that kind of.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, there were.
I just don't think they've introduced a character that's really into casual sex right now, outside of Giles.
Right. I think it's great though that we have that one scene with Giles though.
Giles.
Did you know Giles is a ladies' man?
I did. I just assumed by looking and hearing him.
I asked if this episode is even worth having deep discussions about, but we are, so I was wrong. And John, we've already talked about that one. So Jason, why don't you throw some at us?
I just felt ashamed about being a man after watching this episode. That's all. Anyone else?
No more so than usual.
Yeah. When you watch a lot of these Buffy episodes, you feel pretty terrible being a man. Let me tell you that. Because the men are pretty awful so far.
Trev, why don't you end us here?
I can see back in the 99 or 2000 that like head trauma was kind of funny, ha-ha, physical comedy. Man, they unintentionally really let Buffy really get back at Parker because there are two concussions.
Parker gets knocked out 3 times, twice by Buffy.
Yeah, he gets 3 concussions in the span of like 30 minutes. That's really serious. That is extremely serious. And you sprinkle some smoke inhalation and mild carbon monoxide poisoning on that. I mean, people say she didn't get revenge on Parker, but girlfriend, she got revenge on Parker. All right, that was bad.
You heard it here, folks. Real medical advice from an actual medical doctor. If you get knocked out 3 times and inhale smoke in the same day, you should seek medical attention.
Within an hour. Within an hour.
Is not graduating from college.
Yes. If you see smoke, call the fire department.
This is
Don't
like
try
a
to make the fire yourself.
This episode is all PSAs, really, to be quite honest. Don't drink with frat guys, number 1. Number 2.
Don't throw a fire extinguisher directly into the fire.
Yes.
Oh, I would just like to say that right now, I'm not smart enough to stack a bookcase against the wall and crawl out of a burning building, but these cave people figured it out right away.
That's also the backdraft moment. That's like the worst thing you do in a fire is open a window. That was like PSA number 4. Don't open a window because the fire will leap straight to the window. That's like, this was dangerous episode. I mean, I was like, oh my God.
Thank you, Travis. I hadn't thought about the real world physics of the fire, honestly.
It's bad news. You either watch Backdraft or go to the ride Backdraft, I think at Universal Studios. Or Yeah, or recreate. Don't recreate it at home. I'm just kidding.
Virgin predictions.
So there's actually not that much to talk about for this episode. Although we do have a
Caveman lawyer.
well, we have a fan who Sagov9 brought up that. So Mike predicted that there would be a PTSD reference to graduation. We gave him that prediction because that sort of happened in season 4, episode 3. But Sagov9 points out that the PTSD reference, if it was one, was actually in season 4, episode 3, while Michael predicted it would be in season 4, episode 1, which means that Sagov9 is taking better notes on Mike's predictions than I am. So what do you guys say? Since we gave it to Mike, should we just give it to him, or should we I
think we should reward Sagov9 for
Sagov9. You're now a part of this race.
So wait, what does that mean? How do we reward Sagov9
by rejecting Michael's
by
claim?
denying it? All right.
No. We can't take away. That's like
we are taking away.
No, you can't take away. We already granted. That's like saying.
But there's one I think John might have forgotten about that I want to call out and see why, or maybe.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
I believe Michael predicted that Buffy would have a one and done relationship in.
That's right.
That is
definitely true.
Thank you.
You should get a point for that.
Because I remember all the what does one and done mean conversation.
Yes.
I'm going to get PTSD in this episode. That one and done. Can you define one and done? Oh my god.
I mean, maybe she will get back together with Parker. We don't know.
Maybe it just takes a hit on the head to make you realize what you missed.
He comes back next episode with a complete personality change. Also, he's wearing diapers.
There will be the PTSD reference is denied. Buffy will have a one-night stand is confirmed. A couple of things that I think we're going to leave open, but Xander will find a way to go to college with Buffy and Willow. I assume that Mike meant that he's going to matriculate and take classes, not that he's going to be on campus tending bars. So I don't think we can really confirm or deny that one right now, but we're close. And also, Mike predicted that Buffy will fail a college course. She hasn't failed psych yet, but she sure seems like she's trying.
Close.
Yeah. Okay. So that means that Mike went from a 62% to a 62%. It didn't really change enough. You changed by like 0.4%. So it didn't really change your overall average very much.
Great. Well, I have new predictions.
Very good.
Buffy will not get hungover again. Prediction 1. Prediction 2, there will be another Townie versus student episode. It's irresistible. It's the formula all college films use. There's no way they can avoid it. There will be no more cavemen or cavewomen on Buffy. I can tell because Dennis just basically dumped every caveman movie at once as a recommendation. So that's not happening again. Buffy and Riley will hook up this season. It has to happen. That TA is too nice.
Hella nice.
I mean, I don't want to say TA gets the TNA, but that's totally what's happening.
But you said it.
John, deduct some points.
And then Riley will be killed by a vampire. I could just say Riley will be killed, but he's going to get killed by a vampire.
Will Riley become an undead person? Will he become a vampire?
I don't know. He could just be killed in the normal way. He doesn't have to get his blood sucked out and change into a vampire. But he's going to get killed by a vampire.
Can I just, about Riley, is I have a cousin named Riley, and she's a woman. So I feel like Riley is a girl name, although I think it's non-gender specific.
I know 3 women named Riley.
Yeah, it's always weird to me to hear this guy named Riley, just from my personal experience. Like, you got a lady name. All right. Well, I think that's the episode. I've been Dennis St. John. You can buy my comics online. I'm at Dennis Comics everywhere, except for Instagram, where I'm Dennis Saint Comics. Jason, where can people find your stuff? What are you up to? What do you got to promote?
Go out and buy your Peanuts books, everybody. How about that?
Jason is a writer in Peanuts and has written a couple graphic original trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
I think my favorite is the upcoming one coming out this year. It's an adaptation of Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Sounds exciting.
Based on the 1970s classic cartoon.
Can't wait. Who else has something to promote? Mike, you just got a new video you posted.
Yeah, I just posted a new YouTube video about my experience at WhedonCon. So you can check that out on my Michael Poley YouTube channel. I think we tweeted it out. So the people that follow this podcast have probably seen it already. But if not, YouTube, Michael Poley. I'm at Michael Poley on Twitter.
Yes, don't forget to like and subscribe and give us ratings. It helps. And we'll see you next week in hell.